Hey guys, Steve from Canto Comics here. Today, I'm with my friend Parker, and we're gonna press some books. So if you checked out my previous episode, which is a part 1 to this one, I definitely recommend checking it out because I go over what to look for in books to, if you even want to press it.
So the first thing that you need to do before you decide if you want to do any kind of cleaning or pressing is you have to assess the book, condition of the book. And the easiest way to kind of assess the condition of the book is obviously just take a look at it under good lighting. A lot of the imperfection, you can actually see them pretty well. And this is how CGC, this is how they describe that they do it, is by taking a book in a shiny light, and if you angle it just right, and you can see the light just reflecting off of it, and you can see a lot more imperfection than you would be able to if you're just looking at straight on.
Yeah, I see fingernails,
Right.
I see all kinds of stuff.
And for a lot of these older books, you're gonna see a lot of things that you typically wouldn't notice if you just looked at it head on like that. So you need really good lighting, but you'll be able to see it. And if you submit this book with these kind of imperfection, chances are you're not going to get the grade that you want to get. So it'll probably lower your grade maybe like 0.2, 0.4 if you don't take these kind of defects out. So that's where pressing comes in. So right here.
Yeah, this guy right here.
Yes.
So normally these are for pressing shirts, right?
Yes. There's a bunch of other people that use different type of equipment. I've seen them use like an iron, which I don't recommend because that's too much heat and it's direct heat right over it. And I think this gives you a little bit more control than an iron does. So, I mean, you can go cheap if you want, but that's your book. So
yeah, you don't want to go too cheap.
That's up to you. So
this is, if you saw my previous episode. So again, I definitely recommend checking it out first. So yes, this is G.I. Joe number 1.
G.I. Joe number 1, a key book, really expensive book, and 9.8. So yeah.
Yeah. So right now it's, I would say best, like as is, 92, 94. Yeah. I pointed out in the previous episode that there are some spine ticks, but they don't bleed too far. Like they're like a 1/4 inch maybe? Or that one's actually a little big. Yeah,
that one, the one in the middle, that one's a little bit longer. So that would definitely eliminate the possibility of getting a 9.8. So anything that big is probably, CGC will let you have like a tiny spine tick, but this length, that's not gonna work. I don't think so. But to make this book a little bit more presentable for your own personal collection, and make the book the best that it can be, even all you can be, G.I. Joe, yeah, sure. Then you want to eliminate these defects by pressing, and you should be able to get it up a few grades.
So definitely from this one, so there's a little crease here, and then in the light I noticed a bunch of little fingernail bends.
And that's typical because when you read these books, you're going through the pages and your thumb gets, on the page and it bends it. And you see a lot of that happening in some of the older books. These days, people are really conscious about.
Oh yeah, they're wearing gloves.
Oh yeah, they're wearing gloves. they're just reading the book like this, like, yeah. So you don't get that, but this is pretty typical. And also, if you look at the back, there's a really big defect that's really clear on top there. So that I think you can press that out. And also you'll see a lot of this happens because the age of the book.
Yeah, it was red.
Yeah, it was red, and sometimes like the paper, the backboard, you see a lot of debris. Not debris, but all this dirt on the back. It's because paper degrades over time, and sometimes whatever is on your paper, and especially if this is not acid free, some of this stuff will actually get on the back of your book. So
yeah, that was on it was like the mini ghosts of Dr. Graves. So that was like from the 60s, so I don't even know how long this thing was there, but yeah, this is definitely not acid free because it's showing you right here.
Right.
So especially for G.I. Joe, I would never have one of these on it. Yeah, I've got my Mylar and I've got my acid-free boards. Those things are thick, man.
Yeah, they're thick. Yeah, but they're acid free, so you don't have
Yeah, you'll
issue
never
with
get
this.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, back then people didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't
like,
know.
it was cheap,
Yeah.
whatever.
It's cheap. Jeez, back then they rolled up their comic book and put it in their back pocket. That's where you got all these spinal issues.
Yeah.
For some of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, people are more conscious these days, so they don't, you know, if they want to preserve a really valuable book, and these books could be valuable. I think this thing sells for a couple $1,000, 9.8. So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so one thing I did point out in the previous episode that this one is signed. So this is actually going to be okay because it's like ink based. It was basically a black Sharpie. So if they use something water based, like the humidifier is just going to tear it up. It's just going to bleed everywhere.
Yeah.
So this one, like it should be fine.
Most people should sign most artists or, you know, whoever you ask them to sign this, they sign with Sharpie. That shit is permanent. It's not gonna, you know, about
Yeah, it's pretty standard.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I do have like a fine point pen on my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I think because it wasn't ballpoint, it should be fine because it doesn't have any.
And, you know, this, basically it's what you see right here is a humidity chamber. It's not anything big. It's just a big box with you put water in it, and then there's a stand where you put your comic book so the comic book doesn't get wet when the water evaporates. So this chamber, we'll just call it chamber, is designed so that the comic book sucks in a little bit of moisture. You don't want to, like, if you put really hot water in there and you soak it in for like a couple hours, you'll see the paper actually, you know, get all water damage. Let me show you what water damage does.
Yeah, we got a perfect example here.
Where's that book? Yeah. The pages start warping and they get all curly and stuff. Yeah. You don't want to, you know, it to soak up moisture to that point, because obviously it's going to take a lot longer time to flatten this out, get all the moisture out. So, and that means you're going to have to put more heat into your book, and the more heat you put into your book, the higher risk that you run into that you might put too much heat, and that's irreversible. So you don't want to do too much
permanent damage.
Okay, so right off the bat, before you even go pressing anything, I mean, there are certain things that you could take care of right off the bat. So the white areas, I don't know if you noticed, like there's stains, a little, you know, dark stains that, I mean, that's just aging of the book, and, you know,
or something smeared on
it, right? So you can take care of those just by using a simple eraser.
Yeah, definitely on the white parts.
On the white parts. The reason you don't want to do it on the color parts, because if you start rubbing, trying to get the dirt out, you'll also pick up ink as well. You'll see that area is going to turn a little hazy.
Yeah, there's definitely there's alternatives to use. I believe there's like a clay you can use. You just kind of roll it off. I've watched some videos of some people, they do that. It's literally, not literally Play-Doh, but it's like Play-Doh. You just roll it right off and just keep doing it softly, and eventually the dirt and all the debris will come off.
Yeah, your mileage may vary, so be careful though. Just be careful, especially with a valuable book. You want to like be really gentle with it. And also, I'm not doing this right now, but I really should be wearing gloves, because what happens is when you sweat, when you're doing this, and if you actually sweat, you're gonna leave them thumbprints on your book. So that's why these plastic gloves come in handy, so that you don't leave any prints. Because you have oils in your hands. So, and I've had some books that were sent to CGC with the remark saying, yeah, there's a fingerprint on your book. I'm like, okay, that's not good. And that's just happens naturally. You know, not while you're trying to clean the book, but if you're reading the comic book and your hands kind of have been a sweat, especially on a black cover, that thing is so noticeable. Yeah. So
yeah, I've got that 911. He's in Spider-Man 36.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I sent him the grade. One came 9.6 and the other ones were like 9.4. So, and I didn't even do anything to it. Like, I didn't even read them. That was just like grabbing it from the newsstand. So those all black books, oh man, it's murder.
Yeah, black cover books are really hard to like, because any kind of defect shows up so much. I mean, you can see them so much easier. So So don't go crazy. Don't you don't really need to put, it's better for you to take your time and do this well than actually try to speed it up by using force, because that's when you get into trouble and you most likely will, do irreparable damage. I know because I've done it, so speaking from experience.
Yeah,
so.
You can Google that. There's a lot of examples of damaged comic books.
So take your time.
Well, one thing to note though is as you are erasing, you got to make sure you get that debris off. Because that's another horror story.
Yeah. So he's actually covering a good point. When you're pressing any kind of defects or any kind of debris, foreign substance you have on your book, if you don't clear that, guess what happens? It gets pressed into the book, and you're gonna end up with a really, really a huge dent in your book. That's not fun.
Then you have to press it again, and you may have more damage.
You just, you're being like a surgeon almost, just do no harm. I think that's the doctor's thing, right? Yeah, do no harm.
Yeah, so I think on the cover, that was really the main issue, was just the G.I. Joe logo.
Yeah, just the G.I. Joe logo. I don't know. There was a before picture, but you may be able to compare it, and you'll see the difference. For stains that's been there for a long time, it's gonna take you a while for you to get those out, but just like I said, take your time, don't rush it, don't try to because you'll probably end up damaging the book that way. So go ahead and slowly. The changes or the improvements are very subtle, but you will see them. There used to be a big stain here that under the J, but now it's all gone. So the white looks actually whiter, and you can go over. Obviously, this is gonna take time, so
we'll speed through this part.
Let's speed through this part. Right. Okay.
Well, on this book, I do know there was some debris on the back, so we do need to take care of that. So, because right here, you can see it actually pushing through.
Eraser actually does pick up those things if you do it. There's also an artist brush that you could use to kind of brush it off. But if they're embedded in there, you can use an eraser. It will pick some of that up. But you just got to be careful when you're, trying to use an eraser on a part that's got color. So you just want to make sure. Oh, did you already take it off?
Yeah, I think there might have been a second one. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me see if I can take that off. First, you want to identify if it's a debris. Yeah, it is. But some of the stuff will come off with an eraser.
I do have one question on this.
Lighter. Okay.
So say you press your book and then you realize, there was still dirt on here. Are you able to actually remove it again after pressing and going through all the process?
You can, but so for example, say you have a raised spot because you had a debris there, and the way it's gonna show up after you press it, it's gonna look like a pinhole kind of thing pushed through the paper. So next time you press it, you're gonna have to put a little bit more pressure on that point than everything else. So one thing you can do is prior to pressing, you can kind of even out that raised spot by using an eraser to kind of smooth it out and lower it. And then you can press it and it's less noticeable, but there's no guarantee that you're gonna be able to get that out, especially if it's a huge, something that was sticking out, was raised up really high, then I think from that point, there's no point of return. You messed up. That's what it means. Yeah. So another thing that you'll notice a lot is these lines that sometimes trail over like that. It could be just ink that's draining, or it was
pressed from another book or something.
When you stack books together, the ink over time will rub off on each other. And modern books, when you buy modern books, you'll see a lot of ink rubs, and the quality of ink has been degrading not degrading, but it's different over time. So the ink that they use these days make the books a little more colorful, but they tend to smear more easily. So that's why you get all those ink rubs on new books because when they were stacked, from the distributor, they started rubbing. And I think I should be able to get this kind of stuff out because I know these are really easy. You see that?
Yep.
It's pretty drastic, right? Yeah. Some of these things are really easy to take off. All you really need is just an eraser. But the thing to remember is if you just clean one spot and all the other spot looks shitty, then it makes it even look worse.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you clean the whole spot. Otherwise, one spot's just gonna stand out. It's like, oh, why is that spot all clean and the other one isn't? So, yeah, you took that right out. You see that line?
Yeah, definitely the back of this book has more defects than the front. So yeah, obviously when I bought it, I got a really good deal. I got it literally for $2, like a Captain Nemo's, which I keep talking in my videos that I'm gonna basically just show off all the books that like I scored. Literally this book, like say it comes in 9.8, sell it for $2,000. That's I don't even know math right now. But if $2, 2,000, that's what 10,000. I can't think right now. That's a lot of money. So
I wouldn't do that because if the Nemo people see this video, they're come looking for you.
I actually have an idea. When I saw those books, it was actually in the front. So I think a customer had just like sold them to them and they were pricing them. And I think the owner knows everything, but he's only there like 1 day a week. So the guys in the front, they're just like college dudes. They don't even know what's going on. They're just like, it's an 80s book, G.I. Joe, whatever, $2. So they probably tell them like, oh yeah, any like standard modern book is $2, like just in the back bins. So I went through it. They literally had like G.I. Joe #1 through like 30 something just sitting there. So I was like, I just like literally grabbed, I think I just grabbed the first like 12 or something. Like I didn't even know back then like which books to get because I wasn't following this original comic. I just knew for sure #1 through 10, like I got to pick this up. And then I think I picked up some random ones too with it, but yeah, they just don't know what they're doing. They just price it. They're like modern book, $2. And I have another story with that, which actually is first appearance of X-23. I got my first copy. I bought it, when it came out, and they wouldn't let you buy another one. They're like stingy. You can only buy one copy. Fast forward a bunch of years. I'm at Captain Nemo's. I'm just sifting through their books, and I see NYX #3. I'm like, what the fuck? It was $2, $1.99. It did have had some bends and creases on it. So I just took it. I was like, holy shit, like what is this doing here? I just like bought it real quick. And it was just sitting in my long box for a long time. Eventually, I think this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I started like grading everything. That NYX #3, I pulled it out of like my box, and just with time being packed, that crease actually almost was completely gone. So I was like, wait, wasn't there something wrong with this book? And I was like, oh. So I sent both of them out to get graded. And my original one that I actually read myself got a 9.8, and the other one actually got a 9.2. So I was like, that is not bad for a $2 book that I got like years later from it actually being released.
Man, I wish I knew like a honeypot like you did. Like, there's so many people online. I am so jealous. They go to these comic book stores and they pull out like, oh my God, it's $1,000 book. I bought it for $2. Never happened to me. So I don't know.
I can't go there anymore now. Like, I think they know what they're doing, and like, they're like, oh shit, we have all these nice books. Like, you can't sell these books for cheap.
Yeah.
Because like some other books I got 2 first appearances of Phoenix. So Uncanny X-Men 101, I bought one of them from them for $14.99 and one was $7.99. They do have creases, and I graded one. I can't remember off the top of my head. It used to be sitting on like, on my back shelf. I think it's like a 5.5 or maybe a 6. But for $7-8, like, sure.
Oh yeah, do that all day, every day.
All day long. Because 9.8, fuck. That book now is like well over 10,000.
Yeah.
But anyways, that'll be a future episode.
Of how you robbed some people.
Yeah, actually, well, a good amount of these books were from there too. Well,
Yeah.
specifically this G.I. Joe #1.
Okay, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on that, but basically some of the, the dirt, the black stuff that's on there, managed to get most of the major ones out. Like the line that used to be there is barely noticeable now. So yeah, so just simple eraser. You don't need to buy expensive equipment, but I do recommend that you buy these type, not the the pink ones.
Yeah.
They're not that great. Okay, use these. The pink one, actually, I don't know if you ever use those in school. They will actually leave like a pink mark if you press too hard into them. So yeah.
So I do recall one thing before we would start pressing and everything, you definitely have to go through every single page.
Yes, because you don't want anything to be in between those pages, because if you have like a little debris, guess what? That's gonna get pressed into every page. And when you take a book, when you send a book to get graded, they will look at every page.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I should probably have gloves on.
Oh, yeah, here you go. Yep. Caution.
So the cover, I don't see any debris on the cover.
Yeah. Before we go through all this, what I will probably do is I do have a brush. I'll probably brush out, because when you use the eraser, you're gonna have all this the rubber, the part, that the residue from the eraser. So you want to make sure you don't press that into it, obviously. Yeah. So there are certain instances where you want to use a humidity chamber, if you want to call it that.
Well, so let's actually go over a humidity chamber. Like, what exactly is this?
I mean, it's really simple. It's nothing complicated. It's not like a humidor for a cigar, but it works the same basically. So the idea is you want to add a little bit of moisture into your paper, into your comic book. So what you do is, my setup is really simple and it's really cheap. I just got this container from like one of the 99-cent store or whatever, and I have this stand here inside. So the idea is you pour hot water into it, and then you set your comic book on top of this so that obviously it's not making contact with the water. But when the water actually,
We need distilled water, right?
Some people say that, but I don't really, because there's mineral in the water, but when the condensation happens, it's typically water because the mineral stuff is too heavy.
That's true. Yeah, it just stays on the bottom.
It just stays on the bottom. So I don't see how that could help, but if that makes you feel better, just add mineral water.
Yeah, because you haven't had any issues with it.
No, I haven't. So what I typically do is fill up this container with water, hot water. Doesn't have to be boiling, it just has to be hot enough that you can see the condensation. So if you put the top on it on hot water, you'll see that it'll condense, without the water being boiling. Because what you do, if you put boiling water in here, you may get too much moisture into your paper, and you don't want to do that. Because you run into this situation right here where you get too much water.
Yeah, good old man thing.
So the point is to get moisture in there, but not too much, because if you get that much water in there, then you're gonna have to pull it out. That means you're gonna have to add more heat to it. And
I think this one, literally someone spilled like coffee straight up on it. Because you don't see it here. I'll probably have to do it on the B-roll.
Yeah. But yeah, it went through every page.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, you see all the brown. So
the water stain. Yeah.
Yeah. So we could definitely flatten this, but that stain's not coming out.
Yeah. So obviously, pressing is not going to help you with any kind of discoloration or any kind of color breaks or anything physically wrong with your paper. It's pressing. It's just gonna flatten your pages so that if you have any kind of like marks on it that's uneven on the cover, and when you press it, obviously it makes your book present much more nicer. So even if you're not, turning it in to get it graded, just for your own sake, you want to have a good looking book.
This is a great looking book. I only paid $5 and looks great, but it'd be nice if it was flat.
It's got a really awesome looking art and shit.
He's like, I'm better than Swamp Thing. He's like, I'm coming at you. But you want this flat. So.
Yeah. So it presents so much better, if you flatten things out. So
Yeah, there's still some other little things. I
Yeah.
think this is actually ink right here. Those little spots.
Yeah, those things we could, like I said, you could take an eraser to it, but like other than that, I mean, I've seen people do drastic things, but you know, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but you know, at your own risk. Because I've seen people literally wash pages off the comic book, take the staples out and literally like wash them, hand wash them.
That is scary.
Yeah, that's scary. So there's a lot of risk involved. I mean, that's, you know, you can do that at your own risk. But I've seen it like the watermark, it will help. I saw the video of someone doing that and it did help with the watermark a little bit, but it didn't completely disappear. So there's only, you know, up to a certain point where you can improve the book. Beyond that, you're just asking for a miracle. So you're not going to take a 9.0 book to, you know, 9.8 or a 10 or anything like that. So that's practically impossible. So, okay. So like I said, so we have this humidity chamber here. We're not going to put this book in there because we haven't, you know, thoroughly went through all the pages, make sure all the pages are, you know, smooth and stuff. But if you, once you do that, I'll take this Man-Thing book because this one has the most water damage. And actually, this is probably going to see the most improvement through a humidity chamber like this, because this kind of stuff with the water damage doesn't come out easily with just by pressing it, because heat alone won't do it. So when you add water to it,
like press it initially and it'll just fill back.
That too, so adding the moisture in there and drying it out actually makes the fiber. I mean, I'm not scientific. I mean, but you know, it changes how like the paper fiber is, you know, and it gets straightened out with the addition of moisture. It kind of rearranges things so things can actually stay flat. Not just add, you know, if you just add heat, you're not doing anything really to it, just other than drying it. And especially if the paper doesn't have any moisture content, then you're not really doing anything. You're just adding heat to, you know, paper.
Yeah.
So you know what happens when you put heat to paper? It just kind of like rolls up. You don't want that.
No.
So that's why you need that water. And it's really good for situations like this where you have water damage. So it has water damage, so you add water again, which is kind of, you know.
Yeah, just kind of loosen it up a little.
And
so normally, do you put like a backer board on it or anything?
Typically no. You could, I guess. But the reason I don't do that is, and you'll notice my stand's like, it's not a solid one piece, because I want the moisture from underneath to go.
Yeah, you want it to be everywhere.
To be everywhere. And it's typically what I do is the part that really needs the moisture, I'll actually put that side upside down. So, you know, obviously steam, you know, goes up. So more of it would hit the bottom part than the top part, because the top part would eventually get it after, you know, the thing condenses and stuff. Oh, another point, another reason why you don't want to use boiling water is if it condenses and it forms dew on top of the lid, then it's gonna drop on your paper, and that's way too much moisture. So you don't want that. You want it to be just enough condensation just to not form like a drop on top, but just enough. That's why you don't want to use boiling water, because if you use boiling water, the lid is gonna just, you know, form like condensation, and it's literally gonna drop on your paper. You don't want that. That's too much. So this book, the one with the water damage, is in the humidity chamber. So we'll just go ahead and close up the lid and put this away, because, you know, it was already water damaged. So this one is actually going to require a little bit more time than usual. For, you know, things that you can press out like Canto or just, you know, creases, it's typically an hour, but this thing has been seriously water damaged. So it's kind of not intuitive to put water on a water damaged book, but that's what we're gonna do. Because initially when this thing was water damaged, it wasn't pressed. So it was just given time to just dry out, and when it dries out naturally, it kind of wrinkles.
Yeah, super wavy.
So we're gonna add water back in here, enough that we can actually flatten this out with the press. The thing about a press is you're not just only adding pressure, you're also adding heat. And that helps speed up the process a little bit. Okay, so we'll set that aside. Then we'll cover this puppy right here.
Yeah, so you guys, you had watched my part 1. So I gave you my assessment. I'm not the pro here or anything. So we discussed earlier about G.I. Joe number 1. So we kind of went over this. Mostly it was the damage on this book was all the spine tick marks. So we kind of went over it. This one will probably come out, but obviously the color breaks will not. So where the rest of the crease goes out, that's going to be gone. Plus on the other side, there was a crease. And then just little minor things. So that was the G.I. Joe number 1.
Okay.
And then the other book, so this was just straight up 4 creases. So Canto number 1, again, we discussed it. I'll show you on my B-roll, but yeah, from the printer, it was just terrible. Unfortunately, there are, looks like 2, actually that one doesn't really break color. I think there's these 2 right here. That's really the only thing. Yeah, just those 2. Yeah, so.
There's slight chance, that it might pass for 9.8 if you were able to press this out.
Yeah, most likely. I would just say it's probably going to get a 9.6, which, I don't think I would resell it. But, 9.6 is still nice. Obviously, 9.8 for these modern books, that's what you want. But who knows? They optioned this for a movie or
Will Smith Company optioned it, so they're probably going to do something with it.
Oh, yeah.
And because they got a big name attached, this book, a 9.8 is like $900 or $1,000. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but you said raw though, they're going for as little as like 150-ish for like a premium.
Used to be, but I think it shot up to like 400. But okay, so here's the catch though. A lot of these books, like you said, are not in 9.8 condition. So unless you compress these to a 9.8 condition, then you're not gonna sell them for like a 9.8 or near mint price, even at raw. Yeah, and those sell for like 400, I think. That's
still
300
nice.
to 400. Yeah,
it's still a good chunk of change.
But if you go on eBay, you'll see a lot of these books that say, "Oh, press these, and you can turn them into a 9.8." And I've done it, so I know it's doable.
Yeah, as long as there's good pictures.
Yeah, there's good pictures. Always demand good pictures. If you see an eBay seller with a couple pictures, say no, not good enough. I've been burned too many times. So take it from me. They'll take a picture at the best angle possible and try to hide all the defects. Yeah, so when your corner gets crunched on this end, I actually have a good one that I did before that had a corner crunch, and it came out pretty decent. Unfortunately,
it's not the best example on this one, but like Parker said, like usually where the spine is, that's where you'll get the crunch, but at least on this example, it was on this side. And I believe Transformers number 1 kind of does, like right here.
Yeah, I see it. It's kind of like a. I actually had I think I remember pressing one of the books that had something similar to that.
Yeah, so Transformers number 1. I wish this was a 9.8. 6-ish? 6.5?
6. I don't know, you might be able to get a 7.
Because there are some little dings. Like this crease doesn't break color. The only color breaks is really up here.
There. That's kind of severe though.
It's pretty gnarly. Actually, didn't even look at the back.
And the ticks continue.
Yeah.
Okay, 6. Now that I looked at the back.
Maybe 5.5. I don't know. Maybe the inside is like a dead like.
But come on, if you're a child of the 80s or
and if you're into original comic art, the original painting of this cover sold recently. I think it goes through Felix Comic Art. Oh boy, a lot of money.
Yeah. And that's what I actually collect, all this stuff that came out in the 80s and
this
90s.
is the good stuff. Yeah, I paid. This is another Captain Nemo score, so $2.50 right here. But so this one was technically kind of a corner crunch, but you can even see in the light there's a lot of finger bends. It's all over.
So those kind of things like pressing will definitely help. The other things that we mentioned, like the color breaks and the stress, spine stress, those kind of things, if they break color, not a whole lot pressing is gonna do for you. But one thing that you should know about this book is I've actually been in the market for this book, so I've researched this. So there are like 3 printings, and all 3 covers look the same. So the only way you could tell it's the first print is by opening the first page, and then the indices down here, it will indicate if it's second print or a third print. If it doesn't, then you got the first print. So be careful when you're on eBay. If they don't tell you which print it is, you should ask. And if they don't have a picture of the first page.
And this one was also a direct edition. Not sure if they had newsstands for this book. Probably.
Yeah, they did. So also there's a Canadian price variant. I think it was $1. So the Canadian price variants would worth a lot more than the regular one, but still.
They're all worth.
Yeah, they're worth. Yeah, this thing at 9.8 is like worth $4,000. So yeah. That's how much your childhood nostalgia is worth for some people.
So let's see if this press will make it a 9.8.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't do miracles.
Yeah, guys. So just realize if it breaks color, there's nothing you can't do anything about it.
And don't try to retouch it, because CGC people will give you that purple, or not, is it the green?
Yeah, purple.
Purple label where you retouched it, and I'm like,
yeah,
because they know. Yeah,
because my Uncanny X-Men 94. I got it really cheap. It's signed by Chris Claremont and Stan Lee. I think I paid $299 for it. It's an 8.5, but there's like a little tiny piece of touch-up, and they found it. Yeah. So it's literally not worthless, but that book is like at least 2000. So that's like when they reintroduced the X-Men. It became like the modern X-Men. That's when Wolverine joined Storm.
Yeah,
it was Storm's second appearance, Nightcrawler's second appearance, Colossus's second, I think Wolverine's 4th appearance. So I mean that book is really, really nice, and I want to say it's probably more than 2000, like at an 8.5.
Yeah, but some collectors have like an aversion to that label color. Yeah, they do. They will stay away from that purple label.
The good thing is that because it is a signature series, you actually see mostly yellow. It's just a tiny strip on the top. It says like restoration. But yeah, honestly, I can't even see. I can't find where it is. But yeah, I'll show it on my B-roll, so you know what we're talking about. Yeah. But yeah, first Mr. Sinister here. This is another one I discussed in episode 1. So this one, there's actually quite a few little like marks on it, little creases, and actually none of these break color right here. I think just this one. But I mostly mentioned this one as a corner crunch, so it was this little spot here, but this does break color, so that's gonna ding it to like maybe 7.5.
So like in certain cases, if everything's perfect but you got a color break, there's not a whole lot you can do,
because that's straight up like a bend.
Yeah, I mean, even if I straighten it out, you could still see the color, the white lines. So that probably won't help out. I mean, if there are other defects, we could probably try to press it out. I can definitely do. Yeah, those kind of things. Yeah, color break. Yeah, that's not gonna help. And a lot of people have said that. And if you go to CGC's website and they tell you what pressing can improve or can fix and what it can't, color break is one of those things that you just can't do anything about, unless you want to get that purple label and do a little bit of painting yourself, which I don't recommend.
I mean, the one good thing about the purple labels is that if you just really wanted that book and you're like, man, I can't afford $2,000, then get a restored one, maybe pay $200, $300. It presents very, very well.
It's for your PC, personal collection. Yeah. If you don't mind that someone, dabble with it a little bit, it looks good. Yeah.
So the next book that I have, so this is the limited series from Wolverine, the Frank Miller run. So this is number 3. I got this really cheap for $2 because you can see it was just literally crunch. Like some little kid was reading it and they're just like...
And it makes it worse because it's a black cover.
Yeah.
You see, majority of that background is black, and any crease will just turn into white lines, just like the ones you see here. If it was a white cover, it wouldn't be so noticeable, and we should be able to press it out, but nope.
Yeah, and then because there's the ad back. Oh, there's also a little.
Yeah.
Actually, this would come out. Oh, there's a little bit.
Yeah, rip too.
Yeah. Well, $2 book.
Yeah.
I can't complain. But this is a great example to show you. So a lot of the stuff will come out, but obviously all the color breaks will not. But it will present much, much better.
Okay.
And then we have the Many Ghosts of Dr. Graves. So yeah, we got a pretty gnarly spine roll going here.
Wow,
So-
12 cents. You know it's
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, this
What is it,
is
60s?
it should be 60s, maybe later 60s.
Oh, yeah, it's on the first page, and this has fantasy. It tells you when it's printed. Was it the page stuck?
67.
67. Wow.
Oh, this is number 2. Volume 1, number 2. So yeah, I picked this up. I think this was another Captain Nemo book. I just went through their random boxes and I was like, oh, this looks old and it's cheap. So literally that's what I did. I picked it up. Who knows? This was CDC Comics. I bet you it probably got bought out by either Marvel or
One of
DC
the big
at some
ones,
point.
yeah, it's possible.
Or even
There's a
Archie
lot
or
of
something.
consolidation back
Yeah.
then.
Because you never know. This guy seems like he might have been like a little Stephen Strange here. Oh, Charlton Comics. Yeah, I think DC bought that.
Yeah, I think so too. That sounds familiar. Is this
Yeah,
done by
I mean,
anyone
he literally
famous?
looks like Stephen Strange.
Does it show the artist at all?
Should be in there somewhere.
Back in those days, they probably didn't care who drew them, you know? Oh, no, there it is. Written by Art Vice. Oh, Schick Stone. Oh, interesting name.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Sheik Stone. He's probably like this crazy, like super elite artist. And we're just like, okay, Sheik. Yeah, actually, it's kind of a little psychedelic cover.
Yeah.
Actually, not
And
too
some
bad.
people love these covers. They buy them just for the cover.
Yeah.
There's
Because-
certain books that are really expensive just because, you know, it's like one of those, it just hits those points of the things that people want. Like, for whatever reason, you know, people are into like, you know, good girl art or bad girl art of a certain
yeah.
period. And those books are really expensive.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of those are like golden age books.
Or like covers that have like, you know, Hitler or Nazi or anything
Oh.
like that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, make sure to watch
Yeah.
my Nick Fury episode. I got some Nazis going on in there.
Yep.
Yeah, people love that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the psychedelic stuff in the 60s, this was all like Jim Steranko. He was like the man with Nick Fury. That's all of his stuff was just pure psychedelic, like really amazing stuff.
Oh, that reminds me. So, Nick Fury is. You know the story about Nick Fury? That it's based on Nick Steranko? Or his,
Oh,
you know.
from Jim Steranko?
Yeah, basically, he kind of made him his alter ego kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Story.
So, I heard this from while we were in Baltimore Comic Con, and one of the guys that I went to Baltimore Comic Con mentioned it. Yeah, he's like, you know, he modeled Nick Fury after himself. So, he's the original Nick Fury. Yeah.
And he's quite the eccentric guy.
Oh yeah, he loved getting all the attention at the con,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
especially from you know certain you know sexist. So I was
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah, I saw him at Comic Con like 4 years ago. Like, yeah, he's still dressed like from the 60s.
Oh,
It
yeah,
sounds-
yeah.
yeah, he's got like his.
eccentric is
Oh.
yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
him. Yeah, that's
But man, he is a name though. Like,
yeah.
his stuff is awesome.
He probably has you know groupies that go to Comic Cons
I'm
with
sure.
him. I'm sure.
And the big boy.
Oh, the big boy.
All right, and for the final book that I showed in the part 1, it is a pretty nice 80s key. So technically Bronze Age or Copper Age. I think 1984. Copper.
I don't know. Do they have different cutoffs? They say modern and then they say copper.
I'm like so confused on that. Like,
Yeah.
I think basically they just say 90s is modern and up, and then they're just making stuff up. But yeah, I guess let's just say like Copper Age.
Mhm.
So yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, second print. So if this was a first print, even in this condition, holy crap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, you can't even tell it's a second print unless you open it up and look Where did it go? Yeah, right here. And now also this is signed, so right there.
Careful.
Oh.
Yep.
So second printing right there.
We got second printing right here, June 1984.
Yeah, so even though this is the second printing, it wasn't one of those copies that they reprinted it like 15 years later. Like this was like they ran like probably issue number 2, 3, and then they're like, oh crap, everyone wants number 1. So that's why this one was still worth a lot of money, because it was 1984. It's literally just a few months after the first one launched, and first one I think it was what 8,000-ish.
Yeah, the print one was
very
tiny,
low.
Yeah,
and the second printing definitely had more, but it was still not like the modern books where you got tens of thousands, or even close to 100,000.
Yeah, and they're independent, so you know they don't print that much.
Oh yeah. But yeah, this book here, there's a lot of damage going on. So I showed you guys. So this one, it basically ticks like all the issues that you have going on with.
Once again, it's a black cover.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
So
also, there's this spot here too. That probably before we press that might need to be taken out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've got finger bends, we got creases, we got color breaks galore, and yeah, it still presents very well. And I talked about this book in my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle episode, so I can definitely, if you want to check out the full details about this, I'll link it up above. But yeah, I mean, this is history right here. I mean, look at these.
Yeah, this is kind of like my retirement fund book kind of book. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had a first printing. But yeah, I mean, this is just history.
Even the second print's getting up there, so.
Yeah, and even this was a big book. I mean, this was 40 pages. Oh yeah, they also like cut off, like, I mean, this was so like low production value. Like they couldn't even get their bleed lines correct. You know, it's like everything's like cutting off. Also right here. Like, this is from like iron-on t-shirts. Like they couldn't even buy like a normal shirt. They had to get iron-ons. Like, I mean, this is Peter and Laird. Kevin Easton and Peter Laird. I mean, they were really like
just two-man team and self-published too.
Yeah, amazing history. And you can see even right here, it's rubbing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I probably, because this is a magazine size, all I had was just a regular board, so it's better than nothing.
Yeah, this book, if you're gonna do any kind of correction on them, you want to be real careful.
Yeah, even in this condition, like you don't want to make it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this guy.
And okay, so lastly, I'm gonna go over, because the machine's there and you haven't seen it operate before, so basically I'm gonna show you the steps that I take to press a book. Like I said, it's basically for shirts, and it's a machine that I bought off of eBay for like, I believe it was like $100, probably less now. So what it does is it puts pressure on whatever is in between the two plates, and you can adjust it by using this knob, and you can just basically push it down and it actually clamps all the way down, which I'm not going to do. And the top part actually has a heating element, which you can set the temperature here. It's currently not on right now, so but I'll go ahead and turn it on and show you how that sucker works. Okay, so here you have your heat press machine right here. The reason I put this steel plate, and I got this from Home Depot, and I think these were like $4 or $5 each or something like that. The reason I do that is this heat press actually has like a foam type of
it's almost like a
cushion, yeah, and it's a little bit too soft, and there's a bunch of debris that can easily land on there. So to actually flatten this out, and because this is like a compressible material, whatever, like if there's anything that's sticking out from bottom, it will actually press onto the book, which you don't want to do. Yeah. So that's why you have a flat, so it guarantees you have a flat surface on the bottom. And you also want to make sure before you press that there's nothing on this plate.
Yeah, sparkling clean.
Yeah. I mean, we are gonna put more stacks on it. Well, basically we're building a sandwich is what I like to call it. It's a sandwich. So first you're gonna start with some backing boards. And the reason you wanna do that is because this steel is not polished. And whatever defects that you see here may actually, and because this is steel, if there's like any kind of, scratches on there, then you're definitely gonna get it on the book. So we're gonna use a backing board, but we're not gonna just use one backing board. We're gonna use several backing boards to give it a little more height so that it actually stands out like that. Once again, you wanna make sure that this is flat. There's no debris on the backing board itself, so you wanna kind of smooth that out. Yeah, I kind of see some spot there, so you have to move now. Make sure you do that. And then you take your book. And typically when you're pressing, unless you're going for, the pages inside of a comic book typically aren't going to be, so bottom line is, if you have some kind of a crease on the outside of the book, then you're definitely gonna have it inside the book. But there's not going to be, rarely are there going to be any cases where you have creases inside the book and not outside the book. So that being the case, what you're going to do is, for example, I could show you that there's a crease. I don't know if you could see it that well, but maybe I can kind of shine a light on it. There's a crease here on the bottom of this book, and we're going to try to press that out. And if you look through the inside of the book, because the cover itself is made of
you can just see right there.
A different type of paper and that's typically the case. Like the paper inside is really flimsy, and obviously you don't see any defects inside the cover, inside pages. It's really just on the cover. And on the back, you see that it didn't actually go through. It's mainly on the front cover. So what we're gonna need to do is just press the front cover. So the way you're gonna do that and the way you're gonna make the sandwich is you want to make sure that you press, because all these other pages are actually gonna stand in the way of getting, firm pressure on all the other books. So you want to slip a paper right behind the cover, and you want to make sure that you go like pretty close to the edge.
So all the way, like literally to the staple?
Yes. And if you don't do that, and this, you may run into this problem, is what do you think is gonna happen if I push this out a little bit and you put all that pressure onto that little, on the spine itself? You're gonna get a line like that.
Yeah, you don't want that.
You don't want that, because that would, actually make the book grade worse, or condition of the book worse. So you wanna get it close to the edge as possible. It doesn't have to be like exact, but you just want to make sure when they put the pressure on that it's going to be on, it's not going to create another line of crease down the spine. So that's that. And actually I've seen people put, and I don't have the paper with me, but there's a thinner paper that you can put in between the pages, so that it doesn't, raise the cover that high up. But once you do that, then what you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna put another paper on top, and you're gonna sandwich this cover in between those two, and you're gonna press it. So hopefully that would get that crease out. It is color breaking, but just for the sake of this demonstration that I'll show you, I'm just gonna go ahead and press it just so we can get the wrinkle out. There is another factor is that you have to consider. If you actually put it through the humidity chamber, the paper is gonna get wet, and lots of times, especially with the inner pages, with the high gloss paper like this, sometimes they will stick to each other. So that's why you can get yourself one of these parchment paper and slip them in between the pages so they don't stick. So for example, right there. Yes. It doesn't always happen, but there's been some cases where it did kind of stick. It wasn't to the point where, it was like to the point where it was going to try to tear a paper out or anything like that, where it was stuck that much. But it does stick. It's happened to me, so I know.
Yeah, especially on an expensive book. Like,
Yeah.
you want to be careful.
And especially with glossy paper, the newer, like, not the cheap Marvel. Well, I think Marvel actually uses better paper now.
Back in the day, they
back
had
in the
their
day,
lower end, like
newspaper kind.
Yeah, the newsprint.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't too much of a concern back then, but now with the glossy paper, that's going to be an issue. So that's that for the inside. And you want to make sure that you're not like over, because you do have backing of all these backboards there, but you want to make sure that it's centered on the backboard, because remember, when you press it, you're also pressing the front page and also the back page. So imagine what happens if you weren't on there and you're pressing it and one of the pages actually goes on the other side. So you're gonna have a crease there too. So you don't want that either. So you want to make sure that it's centered. Okay, and then you want to take another.
So more the merrier.
Right, more the merrier. Well, the reason I do that is because I just want to be really careful with the cover, because you don't want anything to happen. If the cover does stick, and the error will probably be more apparent. If you happen to take a whole huge chunk out. And then, okay, so you have a couple layers. So what you have is this steel plate, I guess. And then you have a couple backing boards. And then you have the comic book itself. And then you have the backboard right behind the cover. It could also be the back too. So if you wanted to press the back, you're gonna put this cover on the back part of the right before the back cover, and then press it that way. And then you're gonna have a couple more layers of backing board. Sorry, I'm just gonna get this for now. On top, make sure that it all lines up, because if you misalign this, then it could be bad. Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure on there.
And then the final plate here. I'm gonna put the plate on top. And the reason I use the metal plate is because this top part of this machine, the heat press machine, actually heat comes from this part. So you want the heat to actually, because paper is a poor conductor of heat. So if you have a surface like this where it will absorb all the heat and then it spreads it out evenly, it will put the heat out evenly, like right underneath it. So that's the reason that I use the metal plate on top of the...
Yeah, and it's also a nice way to keep all these pages.
Yes, put some pressure on it. So this machine, the way it works is first you clamp down and then you can adjust how much pressure is being applied. So the lower I have this, the more pressure it's going to apply, and it's a clamp, so I'm gonna watch it clamp. So that's a little bit too much. So let's use some pressure, then clamp down, and it stays down. But there's a heating element, so let me turn this machine to the side so you can get a better look.
So are there situations where you don't need too much heat?
You could do a straight press, but it won't be as effective as heat, because heat actually makes the paper more easier to press. Yes. Yeah. So this machine. Okay. So this machine, it immediately turns on. There's a switch on the left-hand side. Obviously, you may not be using this machine, but obviously read your manual. It's preset to, I believe, 1670. And that's the temperature indication. It does take some time to heat up to that temperature, so it's gonna go up there to like 170. So my recommendation is 170 is probably your upper limit. If you want to be super cautious about it, I would start from 140 and work your way up to that. Maybe increments of like 5 degrees.
Yeah, especially if you have like a hologram or something.
Oh, so be really careful with holograms and embossed. Okay, so embossed covers are
just don't press.
Just don't press them, because you're gonna lose the embossing if you do that. And if you have special comic books that have inserts on them, like little cardboard inserts or something, when you press that insert, the outline of that insert is gonna make it to every page if you're not careful. So what some people do is they'll actually put like plates right before the insert, so when they press, so the pages don't actually get pressed as well. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah, there's a couple tips that you could use on some of those covers, but the reason the holograms are really difficult is in some cases the holograms will actually get damaged because of the heat.
Or they're like melts.
Yeah, I've seen cases where it discolors like the cover or something, or it detaches the hologram from it lifts it up and it looks hideous. Well, you basically destroyed your book. Okay, so looks like this is actually better, I think, because like I said, this is probably a better setting, 150 than 170. I said 170 was upper limit. So I've programmed this to 150. I thought it was set to 170, but it's 150. So you're gonna leave this on for a while and let the heat actually make its way down to the plate, and then it'll make it down to the comic book. So you wanna let this sit for maybe a minute or two, but you're not gonna open it up right away because you're not gonna see results that quickly. And also, even though you turn off the heat doesn't automatically disappear. So even though you turn it on, this thing is still gonna be 150 before it cools down.
Yeah, steel plates.
Yeah, so typically based on how severe the crease or the defect is, I will have this thing running for at the very least 12 hours. I've done a couple books that took maybe 2 days. Because I know those books had severe like water damage that you showed before.
Yeah.
So those required like a longer time. And there's been books that I've had to repeat the process over and over. The changes are gradual, but you can see the improvements over time. The thing that I caution people against is rushing it. If you want to like pump up the heat and put it on 170, there's a chance that you could damage the book. Patience is a virtue in this case, so you want to take your time, make sure you do it right. And it's possible that you might notice something on the first go, and if you were doing it with a higher level of heat, that damage would have been much more permanent than than doing it at a lower heat that it may be fixable. So, like I said, if you had, I've had an instance where I actually had a defect that I didn't quite get off the book, and it actually made a dent on the page, like a little divot. And I was able to fix it because I actually didn't put too much heat on there, and I opened it up after a day and I saw the little dimple there, and I fixed it luckily. But yeah, you really want to make sure that when you press something, anything that's found in between those pages are going to get pressed into it too. So that's the one important thing. So make 100% sure that you don't have anything in between those pages. Other than that, it's like I said, it's a game of patience, really. So I mentioned before that I turned my Canto from in the condition that
very similar.
Yeah,
to mine.
it's very similar to his, and I turned that in and I pressed it, I believe, repeatedly like 3 times, and I got that book to go to 9.8, and I got it graded at 9.8 by CGC.
Yeah, you just showed it to me.
Well, maybe I could bring it out.
Sure.
Okay, so here's my Canto 9.8. Like I said, it doesn't do miracles. There's still a slight, I mean, you'd have to look at it really carefully, and you can only see it in certain light, but there used to be lines there, but for all intents and purposes, like most angles, you won't even notice it. And 9.8 in this book is like $800. And also the 1 in 10. Yeah, they make a nice pair.
Is the 1 in 10 variant worth a little more?
Last time I checked, and I'm actually using this website called Cover Price, and they base their price on recent sales on various sites. This is over 1,000. This one I believe is like 800. I mean, it's not 10 times the price, but
but once the movie comes out, then it's gonna shoot up.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see when the movie, if the movie comes out, you know.
Yeah. Could be in like production.
Yeah,
or
we'll
something.
see. Yeah, lots of times, you know, they get optioned and they just sit for years and years and years. I have so many books that were optioned that I have separated out into a different box.
You're just waiting.
Yeah, just waiting to hear anything about any news about it. So we'll see. You know, that's the game. So I want to say that's probably been like a minute or two, and I'm going to turn off the heat. So we'll just let it sit for maybe a day or two. I'll probably wake up tomorrow and just open it up and see how it goes. And that's pretty much how it works. Like I said, if you know you don't get the desired result, but you do see an improvement, then you can repeat the process, and then it will gradually get better and better and better. So a lot of it, this pressing business, and you know, there's a lot of websites out there that gives you advice, but
you gotta take it with a grain of salt.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you run the risk of ruining stuff. I've seen people do crazy things. They take like an iron, and you know.
Yeah, one person says one thing, so it's like, like earlier when I asked about like distilled water, so it's like some people swear by it, and then obviously like in your case, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't know what the difference is. I've tried distilled water, but I don't know if there's any real benefit to it, because you know, condensation's just water condensing. So.
Yeah, like you said, like the minerals, it's not going to travel in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're really interested in getting into this stuff, you know, the best thing to do is just go, and that's how I got started. So just go online, find all the available resources, and don't just go to one site and take that to be the word of God, and you know, you got to do it by that. Go to several sites and figure out what works for you, you know?
A lot of trial and error.
Oh yeah, there's some people who really took their time, and they've actually written out like, you know, what type of paper requires what temperature and on depth. Oh yeah, there are people who've gone through this like much more thoroughly than I have. But like, you know, I'm doing this for a hobby, and I enjoy it. You know, it's kind of like a craft that you learn.
And also start off with garbage books that you don't read.
Oh yeah. Practice on garbage books.
Yeah.
There's tons of garbage books. You'll never run out of those.
Yeah, you got a bunch of them in your long boxes. Just pull one out.
Yeah, there's like, you know, 90s comic books are printed like, you know, millions, so that you could probably.
Yeah, they're a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
So that wraps up this episode about pressing comics. So I am going to have a follow-up video to this one. So there will be a part 3. So this is part 2. And because obviously we cannot cover everything in this episode. This is just like hours.
Yeah, unless you want to watch like a 24-hour pressing session.
Got like a little live feed going.
Live feed too.
But yeah, so I will have a follow-up episode, and I will show you exactly how each of these, you know, before and after, how it worked. You know, did it improve? Did we actually do more damage? You know, who knows? So obviously we want it to be all the positive stuff, but you never know. So that's what this is. You know, again, I mean, these are not garbage books. You know, Parker, he's been doing this for a little while, so I trust him. But again, like some of these I didn't pay very much for. So, you know, it gets a little damage. Okay, well, it's still technically a better grade than what it was before. So what about you guys? Do you have any comic books that you're interested in pressing, or you're kind of weighing your options? You know, hopefully this video kind of instructed you on, you know, what to look out for and kind of some of the steps if you want to do it yourself. You know, maybe one of your buddies has a press or someone was into t-shirt pressing and they're like, oh yeah, it's just sitting in the garage, go have fun. So hopefully this video was informative to you. Yeah, so definitely you guys like let us know in the comments. You know, we've been just rambling here. So, you know, we're kind of shooting off the hip a little bit. But, you know, if there's something that you're like, oh, whoa, no, you're wrong. You're going to ruin that book. Well, let us know. Even if you're going to bash me, hey, you know, you got to let us know. Well, in the meantime, this is Steve and Parker.
Yep.
So Pressing Comics, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. See ya.